Welcome back into the Sports Source, this segment of our program brought to you by Madisonville Marine. Let me give you a quick list of all the best things about Madisonville Marine. 1, they got the biggest selection of brands and models in East Tennessee. 2, their prices are competitive, if not lower than those everywhere else in the area. 3, their customer service and maintenance are second to none. 4, I'm out of time. You get the picture. There are a million reasons to go down to Madisonville Marine, madmarine.com to learn more. As their ads say, it is true, there's no better place to buy a boat. Okay. Tee Higgins, 5-star prospect from Oak Ridge. Guy looks like a world beater. He's just a phenomenal talent. He puts on, you look at his highlight tapes online and you sit there and go, my goodness, this guy's special. He's got something to him. Right now, Clemson is his leader. Tennessee in second. He was spotted. He was at UT this week on campus working out over there doing a camp and had a UT orange, not a Clemson orange, but a UT orange bandana on. Josh, you cover recruiting for Sports Radio WNML. Just 30 seconds on the upside of Tee Higgins. Just your thoughts on Tee Higgins.
He has everything that you typically want from your wide receiver. He's athletic, speed, can jump, and he has the size. So anything you're looking for to come up with a 4 to 5-star recruit at wide receiver, that's Tee Higgins.
The thing that's interesting, so many people say, well, you can't miss him. You have to get this guy. He's must get. If you don't get him, it just shows that Butch Jones can't recruit. Forget everything he's done so far. It shows he can't recruit. It shows that your program isn't up to snuff. He'll go to Clemson, he'll star forever, and Tennessee will suffer from not getting him. Those of you, you're never supposed to talk about anything longer than 25 years ago because anybody 25 and under can't remember it. But 30 years ago, I was 15 years old, I was in high school, when Tennessee, here in Knoxville, a kid named Leroy Thompson was parade All-American running back, USA Today All-American running back, 125 scholarship offers. Tennessee had to get him, must get him, need to get Leroy Thompson. The interesting comparison, the comparison is shocking when you look at the numbers. Let's go ahead and pop this up. 85-86, Penn State had already arrived, much like Clemson now. Penn State was 23-1 coming off an undefeated season. Tennessee was getting better, 16-6-2 over the previous 2 years, but they weren't to that level yet. So you think, okay, now Thompson picks Penn State. He leaves Tennessee, goes to Penn State, and Tennessee actually does better than Penn State did. And amazingly, you look down there at the bottom, Thompson in his career at Penn State only had 334 carries. So they split time with him. 1,200 yards, that's a good career. But Tennessee in that time had another kid from Knoxville, Reggie Cobb, who led them in rushing in 1987. He had 1,100 yards in that 1 year and 17 touchdowns. The next year, maybe the best running back anybody in the last quarter century has seen at Tennessee or the last 30 years, Chuck Webb. Unbelievable year. And then both those guys are off the team that next year. Third string little guy named Tony Thompson that no one talks about behind that offensive line, he gets 1,200 yards in a year, 16 touchdowns. So you think there, well, Tennessee did just fine without Leroy Thompson, and they did. But the last laugh wasn't on Leroy Thompson because Leroy Thompson went and got his degree at Penn State, goes to the NFL, has a 6-year NFL career, as long as anybody else on that list, and that's twice as long as the average NFL career for a running back, which is 3 years. He then comes back to Knoxville, back to his 5 Points community, invests his time and money to rebuild his community, and he's so successful in doing so that when Governor Haslam takes over in 2012, he appoints Leroy Thompson to be on a statewide community development board. In other words, if you're sitting there saying, well, if you don't get Tee Higgins, it's an indictment of everything. I lived through that. I remember that when it was an indictment on majors. It was embarrassing. And then Tennessee did just fine without him. You don't know, if Tee Higgins comes to Tennessee, it's recruit. You don't know if he'll do well. If he goes to Clemson, he may be an all-star, may not. Tennessee may find 3 guys that outperform him. You don't know. Right. So to me, I understand what a huge recruit Tee Higgins is. And good grief, he ought to be. I'd love to talk about him every Sunday here on the show for 4 years. But at the same time, we've seen you can't miss on this local guy before, and you survive.
I'd just like to throw in that I covered Leroy Thompson when I was at the Sentinel and at the Maryville Daily Times. The best high school football player I have ever seen, period, end of story. And I have seen thousands of
locally, you mean?
Yeah. Locally, yeah. Yes. And well, I don't know if you could go nationally and find too much better, but and what you were talking about was true. If social media had been around then,
boy.
Johnny Majors would have been roasted on an open spit when he went to Penn State. And as you said, it turned
so
out
would
good
he.
for both of them. Yeah. and I just think that there's never a not miss kid that you have to have. Yeah. We can go back, and Josh, you can do it better than I can. All the kids over the years at Tennessee, you got to have him. You got to have him. They got a lot of them, and a lot of them didn't pan out.
Right, and it's a position that you can replace him as well at wide receiver. Tee Higgins is a huge priority for Tennessee and should be, and maybe in the end he'll choose Tennessee. He's committed to the Vols once before reopening things, but he might choose Clemson or somewhere else. It might be because he decides, you know what, I want to get away, and that happens everywhere. Tennessee has built its program on trying to find kids that want to get away from where their in-state school is to go play for Tennessee instead.
That's a great point. And for those people, if Tee Higgins goes somewhere else, and it's funny, you go through the list of recent guys who would have been, and again, with Leroy Thompson, you're talking about anytime it's a quarterback or a running back. But from Austin East, you got a running back who's All-American Parade, All-American USA Today, one of the top 2 backs in the country. You get that kind of guy, I mean, that's huge. That's more than a receiver or something else. But you've had guys like Harrison Smith from here, highly recruited, didn't go here. You've had Brandon Warren from around here, highly recruited, didn't go here. Tennessee rolled on. Tennessee continued on. So I don't know that the entire football team implodes if you don't get Tee Higgins.
Oh, no. I mean, and it won't, and you hope it works out for the best however it does. I've known Leroy and his wife Keisha for a long time, and I think it's really remarkable that he did come back to his community, because a lot of times you don't see that.
Right.
But a real funny story, he told me that when he first came out for the baby Roadrunners, they were going to make him a lineman. And he said, I want to play running back. First time he touched the ball, he goes 80 yards for a touchdown. Coach said, okay, you can play running back.
He also, in high school, I didn't remember this in high school, I think he set a state record with 40-something interceptions as well. So for those of you that don't remember Leroy Thompson, and you're thinking, well, Tee Higgins is the most sought-after recruit in East Tennessee in the ages, he's not even going to be up there with Leroy Thompson. Because, again, running backs touch it all the time, whereas receiver, not so much. Thompson was something that was you can't miss. Tennessee missed, and it worked out well for both parties anyway.
If Tennessee fans really want to see what kind of an athlete Tee Higgins is, go watch his basketball highlights.
Exactly.
That's where he just really.
Which is another sport he wants to play in college.
It's amazing.
All right, guys, thank you very much. When we come back, we got a lot to cover. Satellite camps have been announced for Tennessee. We'll talk about keeping them all in state. Softball, they got an uphill climb today. Lawante Turner's eligible. We still got baseball and Dave Serrano to get to. Come on back on the Sports Source.